Hey guys, Clyde here at Leechburg Lights, and I want to take you back into the history of the Leechburg Lights display. And what you see here in front of you, this is a YouTube video. I made this. This was my 2010 sequence for last Christmas, and I had, God, it's been so long, I can't even remember how many channels I used and how awful the house looked because nothing was straight or perfect or, but it still looked good. This is terrible video quality, and what you can see here is a very basic sequence. A lot of sequencing I had done for this was done in my first year. So this would have been year 2010, would have been year 3. Subsequently, this video is on my other YouTube account, which I've abandoned and upgraded to the Leechburg Lights YouTube page. But this is Rexlord, RELXERD 1979. So if you go to YouTube, you can look up some of my really terrible sequencing. But suffice to say, I have this old sequence. I have this old sequence in Lightorama, and here is that old sequence. And that old sequence is still perfectly capable of running. And this was my setup back in the day. It was a lot of trees, a lot more trees than I have now. And I liked it. I loved it. But it took forever to set this up. I mean, getting channels to everything, it was just really, really hard. But I miss those days because it was so much simpler back then. It was just either turn it on or turn it off. And with that in mind, I did have red, green, and blue, or not, I'm sorry, I had red, green, and white throughout my entire display. And here is a wee bit of that sequencing for the red, and then I have down here is the green and the blue. Now what I want to show you is the 2016, actually the 2015 Leechburg Lights setup in my Lightorama show folder. What I have here is I've copy and pasted a lot of the sequencing from the from this here old folder and pasted it into this folder here, this file here. And all I've done is I went through and I combined my like items. So if I snap this up here and I snap this over here, these are my Lightorama version 2016 version 2010, and you can see the windows here. These are dumb RGB windows. These were single channel LED window frames, and all I did was I copied all of the red channels and pasted it to window number 1, copied all of the green channel and pasted it to window number 1, and all of the white, which now are blue, into window number 1. And I did that throughout the display. I copied my I copied the reindeer, and I copied the tree line, and what I didn't copy was and the roof lines. I've copied those as well. What I didn't copy was I didn't copy these the original fire sticks and arches, because they'll be rendered in such a different way. I'll have to resequence the entire thing. These only used to be 5 channels, and this year I'm actually changing my my arches and fire sticks from the existing ones that I have to color RGB. So what I did was I went and copied one line per one line. I went through all of the sequence and I created a sequence in 2010 that we could actually watch. You can see that the reindeer will operate the exact same way. You'll notice that I've only copied in one channel of the roof line, and what will be nice is that I'll be able to export that into the Xlights file. And I just wanted to show you that this is the basic first step for me merging some of my older sequences into a newer sequence. So now that I've got this complete, this takes care of step number 1. This took me quite a while, probably about an hour of copy and pasting. But the next step is what I'm going to show you how to do is I'm going to show you how to do some mapping. So what I have here is I have a Xlights sequence, and I'm going to go ahead. Let me go ahead and we'll just create a new one just for the hell of it, and we're going to we're not going to save this one. We're going to create a new musical sequence, and we're going to select the exact same MP3 that the original sequence was used with. I'm going to select the timing, and I'm going to go to the timings tab, and I'm going to import a new timing, and I'm going to go with, let's go with bars. We'll go with all the set with the defaults, and we'll allow it to process the audio. And then once this is complete, this gives us some timing marks that we can use to create our sequencing, and we'll go ahead and click done. So we're on our master view. I like to go to all groups. That's the one I use the most, and I'm going to edit display elements and put in my groups. I'm going to add the timings of bars to it, and now bars and the new timing are there. I'm going to go ahead and close that, and next we're going to begin the import process. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go look for the LMS file that I created for the 2016 display, and I'm going to go into, where's it at? Lightorama and network. Oop, nope, not network. What am I doing? Sequences. That's what we're doing. And I'm going to roll down to 16, Last Christmas, and now it's going to bring up the mapping properties. Now remember how I used all groups here. This is important. You have to have your models in this inside the sequence already before you can begin the mapping process. This list is derived off of what's listed here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin adding all of the dumb RGB elements from the show or from the display that I'm going to create a map for. So I have a radio signs dumb. I'm going to go ahead and select that. I'm going to add that for the model. Next I have, let's see, we're just going to go through and we're going to pick out all of the models that that I'm going to be sequencing within. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started on, after I've added all these models. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to skip this because I found a different one. I brought in some items that maybe I'm not going to use this time, but I may add in other future models. So here's the windows down, here's the windows up. Let's go ahead and begin adding node data for the windows. Now some of you, it may help to open up your Lightorama. Let's go down here and open it up. Your sequence editor. Let's snap this to the right, and let's bring up Xlights. Where are you? Oh, well, it doesn't want to open up. I'm going to open up the sequence editor here, and I'm going to show you, go into tools and you'll go into channel configuration. Now this channel configuration is very helpful whenever you're trying, and you don't have to use this if you don't want to, but this helps you know the number or the names, and this is kind of small, so let's see if I can't make it a little bigger so that it's a little easier to read. There we go. So now you can see some of the labels. Maybe it's not so clear, but you can see some of the labels that the channels have, and these are the labels that we're going to have to locate in order to map our channels. So I'm going to take this off the screen and I'll use it as a reference as I am doing this. So bringing this into the front, we're looking for windows down. Now this to me is my downstairs window. My downstairs windows, I have a couple different ones. I'm going to click 3 times. It usually takes a little while to get to this. There we go. Now it should respond. And I'm going to type the letter W because I know that in my channel configuration in Lightorama it starts with W, Windows. So I've got window number, and this is window number 6, 6ABC. And I'm going to select this one, not the green, not the blue, not the red. I'm going to select this one here. So now that is mapped to pull data for window strand number 1, window 6A, B, and C. I'm going to click a couple times, type the letter W for window. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to look for window number 6 normal because that's how I have them set up and labeled. W. And I'll probably speed through this because this is a very long process. And now we'll go to the windows up. I'm going to map the first node in the model of windows up to window number 1. Now I'm going to do the mega wreath. I can't remember how I put that in there. I'm also going to take a second to save the mapping. I'm going to call this, I already have one made. I'm just going to overwrite it because it doesn't matter. Mapping. I'm going to call this my mapping from 2015 LOR configuration. So I'm using my 2015 configuration and I'm moving it into Xlights. So I'm going to click Save. Yes, I'm going to replace it. I'm going to map this. There's no data that's coming in for this sequence for this, but I do need to map. I had 2 snowmen in my Lightorama display that I do have data for, and I'm going to use this in the future for my 2013 and 14 sequences. So I want to be able to pull those in and use those as well. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4. I had 5 snowmen. So I'll go ahead and label them snowman number 1. The reindeer node number 1 is reindeer number 1. Okay, whenever we do the twig trees, there's something interesting that I can share with you about them. The twig trees are not all single channel. They're not all single channel. This twig tree line is actually 3 channels. This has not 3 channels, it's 9 channels for the whole tree. But there's 3 channels dedicated to the bottom, 3 to the middle, and 3 to the top. So that's 3 outputs on one of my RGB controllers. So I have control of the lower, the medium, and the upper part. Now, back in the day, I didn't have this exact same setup. They were all single channel, and they had a channel of red, a channel of green, and a channel of clear. So what I'm going to look for is T for tree. That's the train. And I have them labeled in here, tree line 1-1, and that will go there. Now I'll tell you that since I do not have pixels on my old 2010 sequence, I just brought in the one channel that I used to use for the roof line, and this should, if I match it up with the roof upper group, that will map the upper roof line from the LOR into the Xlights. So, and once again, that's an RGB channel. We get to test all this whenever we get there. I did the same thing for the lower roof, which is here. And we're going to go ahead and pass this up. and keep going. For the ground left, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to look for G, ground lights. What did I have that saved under? Oh, this is, so here's a, okay, so here's a good time for me to go over whenever you don't have something labeled. For example, my ground left, I don't have that labeled in my sequence editor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to where it is, my ground pixels left, and it says DMX11.1.1. That's the actual channel I need to look for. Now, whenever it comes to this, this is a little more, a little less intuitive, because now we're looking for the letter D. I've got to look for universe 11.1.1, and that's my address that I'm looking for. So here's universe 1, here's universe 11, and I need to scroll up. Universe 11.11. 11.11, and I'm taking just the solid one. I'm not taking the BR or the G. I'm just taking the solid one. Now I'm going to put that, pair that with the ground left, and then I'm also going to scroll down here, and I think there's another ground. I might not have put the other ground on here, but I can copy and paste that. That's no big deal. The star line, I do have 20 stars. I can go ahead and map those as well. And the star line, that again is not coming up the way I want it to, so let's go in and let's look at the star line. DMX 7-1. This is why it's important for you to be able to locate which ones are which if you're getting into these. So let's go in. DMX, we're looking for 7.1. Alright, I'm saving this now because I do not want to go through that again. That's a lot of work. We'll go ahead and save this map. Let me take another moment to go through and make sure that I have got all of my models that I want to copy over from Lightorama. And to do that, I'm just going to bring this down here so I can see it. Here's the Mega Arch. If I did not do that, let's do that real quick. I'm going to end the video here because I want to. This is quite a long video. This took about an hour. Well, it took about 50 minutes to complete. Now I know some people aren't going to be as RGB proficient, and you're going to be more into individual channels. I highly recommend having all your channels in LOR labeled so that you can pull them up quicker by pressing the letter on the keyboard, and it gets you there shorter. If you don't have something labeled, label it so that it's much faster to find than it took me with the DMX and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and let's process this video. I'll get it uploaded, and then I'll start recording part 2. Alright guys, we'll see you in a bit.